our exciting topic today is economic development. Dana and I were just talking about in our own business the excitement that's happening with economic development for us, and I know that many of you are also experiencing some excitements. We're going to hear about industry clusters and all kinds of other exciting things today, and we've got kind of a unique presentation for you. Ryan Stachelski from the Arvada Economic Development Association is going to begin by telling us some Arvada statistics. So we're going to hear all about the nuts and bolts of what's happening specifically in Arvada, and then we'll bring Patricia Silverstein up to talk about what's happening Colorado and the region. So Ryan Stachelski serves as the Director of Economic Development for the City of Arvada and the Executive Director of the Arvada Economic Development Association. Ryan has served in various roles in economic development for over a decade in the Denver metro area, Central Illinois, and in West Africa as a Peace Corps volunteer. We'll have to hear more of that story someday. Over the years, Ryan has focused primarily on business retention activities. With AIDA, the organization has been recognized by Business Retention and Expansion International and International Economic Development Council for its business retention and expansion programs. Additionally, AIDA has become the first accredited economic development organization in the state of Colorado by the IEDC. Please help me welcome Ryan Stachelski.
So thanks so much. I've got just about 10 minutes and I wanted to go over some highlights from the city of Arvada. It's really complementary to what Patty is doing, and so we were really excited for the opportunity to speak about some of the wonderful things that are going on in the community at a very high level. For those that aren't aware, the Arvada Economic Development Association is really a collaboration between the City Council and a private sector board made of businesses exactly like you. In fact, a lot of the AIDA board members are in the room. And it's really a very unique model in which we work with the private sector industry and the City Council as a public-private partnership in a lot of ways in order to achieve the city's economic development goals. What I wanted to do is, when we're looking at those goals, we have really two missions that we're trying to accomplish when we look at that. One of them is business retention, and we spend most of our time with that function, and then business attraction is our other one. We specifically really focus on business retention because 60 to 80% of new jobs in a community come from businesses that are already here. The phrase that I'll use this morning is dance with the one that brung you. So you guys are the ones that have made the community. You're the ones that are creating the quality of life. And so we want to make sure that we're focusing on making sure that the business community here is strong. And so we spend a lot of time making sure that happens. It doesn't mean that we don't have business retention or business attraction outreach as well. We absolutely do. But we want to make sure that you guys realize how important you are to us, and we really appreciate you. So Maureen Fair of the Urban Renewal Authority was here last week, and she did a great job outlining a lot of the great development that's going on, specifically around the Gold Line, but in other areas around Old Town, urban renewal areas. And so I don't want to rehash those projects, but I do want to highlight a couple of other projects that maybe not be, excuse me, on everybody's radar screen as much. Thank you so much. One of them is, and these are all retention projects, is Wanco. Wanco is a large manufacturer of highway safety equipment, has over 200 employees, and it's located in East Arvada on Tennyson Street. With the assistance of the City Council, with the AIDA Board, with Highland Hills, with Adams County government, we were able to create an expansion of that, which is going to add 200 additional employees. That project is well underway, and I think it'll probably begin operations sometime this summer. I'm going to go over and do a site visit later today. Premium Panels is another smaller company because it's not always about the small ones. Most of the companies in Arvada have less than 10 employees. So you look at trying to help some of the big ones, but most of our businesses are much smaller. So Premium Panels is an example of a really small company that when we first started working with them, had 8 employees and was looking for space and had to grow through different places in Arvada. It now has 35 employees and has used a number of different programs that we've helped them with over the years. And then Soren is another company that we did in partnership with a business attraction. Soren is a manufacturer of medical devices, and it's in West Arvada, has over 300 employees, but we were at risk of losing them because they had some of their space that they weren't using. We were able to attract another business called Prescient, and they came to the city of Arvada, and I believe just got their CO in order to do full production in about 150,000 square feet in West Arvada. So those projects, all in told, equal somewhere around 500 new jobs from just businesses that were already here and we were able to retain. So that's a really important part of the role that Arvada Economic Development plays. One thing that I've done is I put little cards on all of your tables, and if you're interested in what we call a retention visit, and we come out and we sit and we learn about your business and we see how we might be able to connect the dots with some of the tools that we have in your businesses and what you know about resources and those types of things. If anybody is interested in having the Economic Development Association come out and visit your business, I encourage you to write on those cards, just leave them on your table, we'll collect them afterwards, and you'll get a call from us, and we'd be more than happy to come out and talk to you. And that's one of the main things that we love doing, so highly encourage you guys to do that. Now getting to some fun facts. So getting to some of the statistics, so we're a goals-oriented organization. We want to know, did we do it well, and how do you know? And so we've set some pretty lofty goals at the direction of our city council and our board at where we want to be. And one of our goals was to have $350 million worth of new capital investment from commercial businesses over a 6-year period. And that number didn't come out of the blue. It was based on what we'd been doing in years past and then being a little bit ambitious. And so if we were being ambitious every year, in years past, we did about $45 million worth of new capital investment every single year. In 2014, we did $88 million in new capital investment. In 2015, and we don't even have all the December numbers yet, we did $68 million in new capital investment. So in our window of 6 years, when we're trying to get $350 million, in the first 2 years alone and in January of this year, we're already up to $175 million. That is fantastic growth and really is just showing you what we already know, that Arvada is really booming with a lot of the things that are going on. Some of the other things that we've done, we've set goals for ourselves of having 1,000 new retail and service jobs in kind of our urban corridors and those types of areas, 1,000 jobs over a 6-year period of time, just from new businesses. This doesn't include the retention businesses that I mentioned. And we've already up to 900 in 2 years. And the other one, and this is I want to spend a little bit of time on, is our primary jobs. So those are our high-paying jobs that bring new wealth into the community. And we have a goal of doing 800 in that 6-year period, and we're already in, and we already have 400 that are created. 200 of those are from Prescient that came in. Now, it's great that we've done that work so far, but I will tell you it'll be a challenge getting that next 400. And the reason why is that our industrial vacancy rate in Arvada is 0.7%. There is no 10,000 square foot building that is not occupied right now and above. And when you're talking about manufacturers and other primary jobs coming in, that is a huge challenge. Even if your business is growing and you say, hey, I want to stay in Arvada, where am I going to move to? That's a huge challenge for us. But we have a plan. It's not a secret plan. I'm going to tell you the plan. So we have some land over around 66 in Indiana, in which is behind the neighborhood Walmart. That's where Soren is located. Soren actually has a new name. It's called Levanova now. There's an industrial park over there, and there's about 60 acres and about 6 property owners. We're working with those property owners, and we're trying to understand what are the cost implications to move that forward. We're working on doing a master plan on the area, and once that master plan is done, then we're going to take it to the industrial development community and try to create an industrial development area over there so that we can get a lot more primary jobs that are clean, advanced manufacturing, nice buildings, think Coors Tech more than smokestacks and those types of things. Industrial and manufacturing is way different than it was in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Other fun facts, I told you about the industrial, people want to be in Arvada. Arvada is a great place to be. Let me check the time. Oh, I'm done. Oh, I have a minute left. Sorry. People want to be in Arvada, and we want to find space for them. In 2014, we had 177 prospects. That's fantastic. In 2015, we had 170. People really want to come to the city of Arvada, and it really comes from the quality of life of the business community that is set by the AIDA board, that's set by city council, by all the other volunteers, the county commissioners. I don't want to leave anybody out, but it does take everybody of setting the vision, the school districts, those types of things. That creates the community, and you can see that in the number of prospects. I just wish we had more places to put them. So the last thing I wanted to mention is, even though we had so many prospects and we're running out of space, in 2015, we had 418 new businesses come to Arvada. That is staggering. It's not always going to be like this, and these are really good numbers, and these are really good news, but I just wanted to kind of share with you what the perspective of what we were seeing right now. So tap to stop. So that's my time. The one other highlight I want to do, I told you about the industrial park out west. That's going to be a really exciting project. Hopefully in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll see some good traction with it. The other thing that I want you guys to keep a lookout for is the Arvada Marketplace. The Arvada Marketplace is where Sam's Club is located. It's where Who Hot, Bennett's Barbecue. They're going to go through some fairly significant remodeling and bring in some new restaurants and those types of things. The arm is what I consider to be from Who Hot to Sports Authority, and they want to break that area up a little bit and make some restaurant pads and get some more activity and outdoor plazas and those types of things, and they're working on the planning stages now. The one business that I know that they've signed a lease with, and they put it on Twitter and then they sent it to us, was Smashburger. So that's one of the ones, and we expect more to come after that. So that's my update, and I'll let Patty go, and if you have questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them after she's done. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. See, lots of exciting things going on in Arvada. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker today, Patty Silverstein. Patricia Silverstein is the President and Chief Economist of Development Research Partners in Jefferson County, Colorado-based real estate analysis and economic development research company founded in 1994. Ms. Silverstein's expertise is in economic research and economic development, including industry cluster studies and strategic economic development planning. She has extensive experience in preparing economic impact and fiscal impact analysis for community development purposes. In addition, she serves as the consulting chief economist for the Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation and the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce. In these roles, she compiles, interprets, and forecasts economic and demographic data for the Denver metropolitan area and performs in-depth research on issues and proposed developments impacting the region. Ms. Silverstein received a bachelor's degree in economics from Nebraska Wesleyan University in Lincoln, Nebraska, and a master's degree in economics from the University of Colorado, Boulder. We have a little bit of a CU-CSU rivalry going on around here. Ms. Silverstein is active in a number of business and professional organizations, including chair of the Manufacturing Committee of the University of Colorado Business Economic Outlook Forum, and a member of the Governor's Revenue Estimating Advisory Committee, the Council for Community and Economic Research, and the Economic Development Council of Colorado, and the Denver Association of Business Economists. Please help me welcome Patty Silverstein.
Good morning. How's everybody? Did we have a good past year? Yay, yay, very good. Well, let's take kind of a look today then at perhaps the year ahead, right? So this year we're going to talk about intersections. And by this, I mean these connections that are happening within our economy. How does our employment growth intersect with our commercial real estate markets? How does our employment growth intersect with population growth? How does population growth intersect with the housing market? So certainly taking a look at all of these interconnections throughout our economy then. The first real intersection, of course, is going to be from the global side. So I want to take a look just very quickly at what's going on globally, then we'll hit on what's going on in Colorado, and then really drill down into the Metro Denver region. So the first thing to notice here is that a third of our international trade here in Colorado takes place with two major countries. Canada to the north and Mexico to the south. So we are positioned right there in the middle of that North American Free Trade Agreement corridor there. So that's where most of our export activity occurs. Notice our third largest trading partner, China. Have you heard about China lately? You know, they've just been kind of in the news on occasion here. So, you know, even though all that is going on in China, we need to recognize that, yes, it does indeed influence us here in Colorado. But I don't want to see us have their behavior dictate our economic behavior. So we need to be aware of what's going on, but we don't want to be overly influenced by that activity, because truly what is going on there in China is a whole restructuring of their economy. They have always been very much manufacturing based, and now they are switching more to a consumer based economy. That transition is never easy. And it certainly does influence a lot of our other global partners, simply because they are reducing their type of purchases of the global commodities and all there. That's an influence that we need to be aware of, certainly. The Eurozone represents, if we added up all of our Eurozone countries there, represents about 12% of our export activity. So certainly what goes on in Europe, too, is something that we need to be paying attention to. Our main trading partners happen to be some of the strongest economies there in Europe, especially like in the Germany is one of our main trading partners, and again, that's one of the strongest economies there in the Eurozone right now. So certainly we need to be aware of all that is going on the global side, and to keep that whole highlight, that outlook, as far as how they are predicted to be performing as well in 2016. The good news is that most of our trading partners are indeed, their economies are expected to do a little bit better in 2016, with that exception of China. And notice that Chinese growth rate then just a little over 6% right now. And you think about that too. You know, we would know what to do with a 6% growth rate in our gross domestic product here in the U.S. China, though, is going from a 9%-ish, 9 to 10% rate down into that 6% range. So that's why it is definitely a slowdown in their economic performance. From a whole global side, then, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, does still expect that the whole global economic output will indeed be increasing in 2016 to the tune of about 3.4%. In terms of the U.S., the gross domestic product here in the U.S., which again is our broadest measure of economic activity, increased by about 2.5%. We'll still, that number is still moving a little bit, of course. The figures for the full year are still at the preliminary basis. So it could actually drift down to about a 2.4% rate for the year. Our expectation in 2016 is that growth will be a little bit higher at that 2.6% rate. What all that means is that this is actually kind of a sweet spot for our whole U.S. economy. It is a growth rate that does allow us to absorb new entrants into the labor force while still reducing the unemployment rate. Would we like to see faster growth? Yeah. Would there be benefits of faster growth? Absolutely. But nonetheless, the rate that we are performing at right now is reasonable and indeed is one that is sustainable, if you will, for the U.S. economy. So now turning into our employment intersections here, because again, as we bring those new jobs, as you all are successful, as Ryan talked about, in bringing these new positions into your community, you certainly see that employment has this influence on the commercial real estate market, on the wages that are going on, and indeed these companies have these interconnections, these intersections with each other. Starting first of all at the whole Colorado level. So notice that in 2014, Colorado increased, our growth rate was such that we placed number 3 in the country in terms of economic activity or employment activity. 2015, our growth rate has slipped a bit, and indeed our ranking across the country has slipped a bit, such that we are currently, based on preliminary data, ranked at number 13 in terms of our employment growth rate. Those numbers are going to be revised, and we expect that they will indeed be revised upwards, such that we might hit the top 10, but at least we can say probably pretty solidly we are in that top 15. Few things to notice. These are all of the states that border on Colorado, just to kind of give us a bit of a regional perspective here. Notice that Texas, that has also been one of the faster growing states in the country, that growth rate has also been slipping. What do we have in common here? It could be a little bit of that oil and gas influence. So certainly that the growth rate here in Colorado and in our oil-producing states, notice Oklahoma there too, their growth rate has been slipping as well. That all of the oil and gas influence is indeed showing up in those oil-producing states. Indeed, remember last year, the fastest growing state in the country? Anybody? North Dakota. North Dakota had held that number 1 position for the previous 6 years. Guess where they're at in 2015 data? Number 46. Ow, that hurts to go, but we've been there. We know how that hurts here in Colorado. But to go from the fastest growing state to number 46 is a painful, painful transition. So oil and gas, I mean, from most of us, we're doing happy dances when we fill up our gas tank, right? We're taking that money too, and we're doing happy dances to restaurants and other retail expenditures and that type of thing. So what's different here in an oil-producing state, however, so most of the country they're happy dancing all over the place. But for oil-producing states, we certainly have that the other side. This is where I get to be the economist and talk about on the one hand versus the other hand. On the one hand, it's great from a consumer basis. On the other hand, it's really challenging for those businesses that are involved in that particular industry. And we'll see some of that influence too when we talk about our industry clusters. The other one to notice here, Utah. Whew. You may remember that last year I kind of talked about that Utah was coming on strong. Well, Utah has come on really strong. They are currently adding jobs at the fastest pace in the country. They have been very aggressive when it comes to the manufacturing side. They have been very aggressive in terms of their economic development efforts, in terms of their innovation efforts as well. So still an economy to pay very close attention to. So even though we are celebrating here in Colorado that we're adding jobs at a relatively fast clip and all, we need to recognize that certainly our growth rates do indeed vary all across the state. These are the metropolitan statistical areas throughout the state. So notice Greeley, which is Weld County, is still our fastest growing metropolitan area in the state. So we're seeing some switch there though. Last year, they had been growing at a pace of about 9%, so they're down to about 5%. But what is propping them up now, rather than the oil and gas types of jobs, it's the renewable energy side. Vestas, in their wind production facilities, has been expanding their operations pretty significantly there. So that is still a lot of so it's still definitely the Weld County is still an energy-based economy. It's just they're seeing a switch in terms of what types of energies are really driving their economic structure right now. Metro Denver, as you know, the area that has 60% of our jobs in the state of Colorado, certainly the economic performance that we have here tends to dictate the overall growth rates for the state. We have the most the most diversified economic base, so certainly that is helping us to still increase and grow at a good, reasonable rate. Notice Grand Junction down there. They have still been really struggling from way back from the whole natural gas price collapses that they have experienced. They have simply not been able to restructure, re-diversify their economic base, and they have been struggling with still a very low employment growth rate. So moving into Metro Denver then. So in the Metro Denver region, our expectation is that we will be still growing. Our employment base will still be expanding, albeit at a slightly slower pace than what we have experienced over the last couple of years. So in that 2013-2014 period, that 3.6% growth rate, much stronger than historic norms, and indeed, that's a rate that is hard to maintain. What that meant during that period of time is that we were adding 50 to 52,000 net new jobs throughout the entire Denver metropolitan area. Oh, and by that, I should define the Metro Denver region. We're generally going to be talking about a 7-county region stretching from Douglas County on the south on up into Adams and Boulder counties on the north. There will be instances when we talk about our industry clusters that we actually bring our northern partners into this too and bring in Larimer and Weld counties. But for the most part, a lot of the data is just going to be the 7-county area. So in that 7-county region, we've been adding 52,000 new jobs. Our expectation then for 2016, this slightly slower employment growth rate, still resulting in about 45,000 net new jobs, so still a very reasonable type of growth rate, starting to come back perhaps a bit more, though, to some historic norms. Still above that a bit, though. This is a little spaghetti chart here, kind of a fun one. In terms of, if we're talking about intersections, we also have to think about how our economy intersects with those of our key competitors. And by competitors here, I'm talking about in the economic development world, these are the communities that we find ourselves competing against most frequently for those business expansions, those business relocations. So a company often will think about, okay, do I expand my operations in Metro Denver, or do I go to Portland? Do I expand my operations in Metro Denver, or do I go to Atlanta? These are our key competitors. Notice we have no California cities on this list. We have a very different relationship with California. With California, it tends to be that that many of our companies here have a California relationship. And so it's our California companies that we will often go to that to try to help them expand their operations here in Colorado, or perhaps it's a case that, okay, maybe you're fed up with California. Yeah, come to Colorado. So anyway, it's a very different relationship that we have with them versus our other competitors. So what I'm trying to demonstrate here, so any good business, you need to understand what your competitors are doing well and where your advantages are over those competitors. So I'm going to bring in lots of different slides that really compare our Metro Denver economic behavior with our competitors, so we can start to see what our advantages and disadvantages are compared to our competitors. So here is employment. All of our competitors, very different sizes. Atlanta, Dallas, very large, much larger markets than Metro Denver, versus Austin or Salt Lake, a little bit of a smaller market that we have here. So we have indexed all of them such that their employment was set in prior to the Great Recession, so in June of 2007, equal to 100. When those lines drop below 100, that means they were shedding jobs, versus when the line goes above 100, then they were adding jobs. And we can tell by the slope of the line then, too, how quickly they have been adding jobs. So a few things to note about our competitors. Austin, hardly even impacted by the Great Recession. Their employment bobbled a little bit, but indeed they have been on a very significant growth trajectory. That definitely regarded as kind of the hipster location, very tech-oriented, a very strong quality of life. A lot of the attributes that we here in Metro Denver think about ourselves as well. Austin does that a little bit better. Dallas, the next of the competitors to move out of the Great Recession, a lot of that influenced by the oil and gas industry. Notice Metro Denver and Salt Lake City, that gray line, that green line, neck and neck in terms of our economic performance, in terms of when we came out of the recession and everything else right about that same time. Versus, on the other hand, little Phoenix down there, the orange line. It wasn't until late in 2015 that they actually recovered all of the jobs that they had lost during the Great Recession. And we'll see how that has influenced their economic behavior and some other economic indicators here as we go. So why was Metro Denver then one of the first areas in the country, and indeed one of the first regions out of our competitors to move out of the Great Recession? Well, we think it's because of our economic development strategy that we have in the region. Our economic development strategy is focused on these industry clusters. And we now have 9 industry clusters because we added a new one this year. Beverage production. This is a fabulous one for Jefferson County, of course, because a very significant concentration of, compared with that large brewery that we have there in Golden. But it goes beyond that. It's all the craft breweries that are popping up all throughout the metropolitan area. It's the distilleries, it's the wineries, and have no fear, it's not all alcohol. It is indeed soft drinks and sports drinks and milk products that we have going on here. Beverage production has become a very significant concentration of employment activity, and so it's one that we're paying even more attention to. These industry clusters are those that we feel that we have competitive advantages in. Generally, these are primary employers that Ryan talked about. These are those industries that as they sell their products, they're bringing new dollars into our community. So they're the ones that we pay a lot of attention to. If your industry is not on this list, that does not mean you are not important. Oh, no, 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 no. But rather, it's as these industries grow and expand that it helps all of our businesses to grow and expand. So again, it's the primary employment that we focus on, but recognizing that all businesses, all employment is indeed important. So the fun way to show this, and many of you may have seen this type of chart before, the fun way to show the economic behavior of our various industry clusters is through our bubble chart. So along the bottom is the one-year employment growth rate. So if you look out far to your right side there, you will see that the fastest growing industry cluster within our Metro Denver and Northern Colorado region is clean tech. This is that alternative energy, renewable energy, green energy, whatever kind of label you want to give to it there. But this has been our fastest growing industry cluster recently. A lot of it related to what is going on up there in the Weld County area with the expansion of Vestas. And not just Vestas, but many of their supplier organizations as well. This is also solar energy. It's also all of the research that goes on. So being right here in Jefferson County with the National Renewable Energy Lab and various solar companies and all too, this is a key industry, not just for the Metro Denver region, but indeed for the entire, for Jefferson County. Fossil fuels is our other component of energy, and notice that fossil fuels, that employment growth rate has slipped a bit, needless to say. Last year, when I showed this chart, that had been our fastest growing industry. And now, so it's, for many people, it's surprising that we're actually still saw a little bit of employment growth in this industry in 2015. But keep in mind that many of the layoffs that are happening in the oil and gas industry really did not happen until the last half of the year. So chances are we'll see even more of a slippage in that growth rate when we look at the 2016 data. So what influence is this having? You know, so obviously the very direct influence in our oil fields there in Weld County has been very visible in terms of reduced drilling activity. We're also starting to see that influence, however, now in downtown Denver, where we are seeing increases in the amount of sublease space on the market there, as many of our oil companies are starting to shed some of that space there. So certainly some influence there. Regardless, we have still seen the vacancy rate in downtown Denver still declining. So we're able to diversify away enough from this industry, but it is definitely having an impact, definitely having an influence. Up and down on this is our location quotient. This is a measure of how concentrated the industry is here. And as has been the case for ever since we've done this, aerospace has the strongest concentration of employment here out of our industry clusters. Colorado is back to the second largest aerospace economy in the country. Yes. We had slipped to third last year, if you remember, but we're back to second. Yes. And so important here, you know, our concentration of aerospace employment 4.5 times the national average. Our companies are working very diligently to diversify into commercial applications as opposed to only governmental types of applications, and lots of new exciting projects coming up with Sierra Nevada and with Lockheed Martin, and also with the Dream Tracer program. Excited about the opportunities that provides for our region. Again, that is an industry very important to Jefferson County as well. The size of the bubble represents the size of the employment base. Notice that our healthcare and wellness, that big pink bubble, is indeed our largest industry cluster in the Metro Denver region. It has always been our largest industry cluster. And what's interesting about that industry, too, is it has never bobbled from a very strong growth rate. This has been a very consistent performer, you know, and a lot of it has to do with our aging population and our healthy, active outdoor lifestyle that definitely leads into this whole healthcare sector. Notice also that this is wellness, so it's all of those activities to keep us healthy. So it's your local yoga studios too that you go to make sure that you're maintaining that flexibility. So again, a great industry, again, one that is also highly concentrated in Jefferson County. The lime green is our beverage production, again, our new one here. Notice very strong growth rate there as we have introduced all of the new craft breweries. Also a very strong location quotient or a concentration of employment here compared to the nation as well. So, you know, I can talk about all of these industries and all of the trends for hours, but you're going to kick me off the stage. So instead, let me just refer you to the Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation website, where we do reports on all of these industries. If there are industries of interest to you, go out there, the report's free of charge, download them, read all about all of the economic development related trends in all of our industry clusters. But truly, we think that it is this interaction of all of these industries, our very focused economic development efforts at the metro level, that continues to allow our economy to grow and expand. So as we continue to grow and expand, certainly, one of the things that we are noting is that our wages are increasing at a rapid pace. Now, sometimes you'll hear in the news that all we're adding out here are those low-paying positions. No. That is just so not true. Many of our economic development targets are indeed these higher paying types of positions. Again, you may see that as our industry clusters grow and expand, that we have employment growth and expansion throughout all of our other sectors of the economy. So it indeed may be true that you have more low-paying positions, because as you think about it, as you increase the high-paying positions, those dollars are then being used at the restaurants, at the retail, at all of the personal services, and oftentimes it is that high-paying position that is supporting more than one low-paying position. So it's a whole economic structure issue that why you have more low-paying positions being created. But in general, our average wages all throughout the Metro Denver region have indeed been increasing. In fact, Metro Denver has the highest average annual salary of our competitor locations. This again is kind of a double-edged sword. If you're on the receiving end of that paycheck, yes. If you're the business that is trying to pay those wages, ouch. So again, we need to keep in mind that as our economy grows and expands, there are some influences that can make our competitive position even more challenging than what it may have been otherwise. This employment growth obviously intersects with our commercial real estate market. In general, for our retail, industrial, office properties, that vacancy rate has been going down, and that average lease rate has been going up. Ryan, you had mentioned the industrial vacancy rate here in Arvada as being very low. I mean, even at the metro level, we saw a little bit of an uptick in that rate. We went from 3.1% vacancy to 3.2% vacancy. Ooh. Very tough market all throughout the metro region, and that is why we are seeing lots more industrial construction activity that is going on. About 1.4 million square feet completed in 2015, about 3 million square feet still under construction. Still a very hot market, still room for lots of new development when it comes to the industrial side. On the office side, yes, that vacancy rate has continued to go down, but notice we completed over 2 million square feet of new office space in 2015, and we have over 3 million square feet currently under construction. Remember what I said about sublease space in the downtown market now? So if you are an office developer, I encourage you to do your homework. Pay very close attention to the market conditions in the area that you may be developing. Obviously, along like our new light rail line, some of those new transit-oriented development sites, there's going to be still lots of opportunities. But I do think it's time to really take hard looks at those office-related projects rather than just going full steam ahead. Again, we're moving into a situation where we need to be careful. We don't want to get into that whole overbuilding situation once again. So we need to be careful. On the retail side, again, that market too has been improving down to about a 5% vacancy. Very more limited new development. More of what we are seeing here, and most of the 1.2 million square feet completed was actually the redevelopment of the Twin Peaks Mall up there in the Longmont area. So not a lot of new retail development happening. Again, more well-placed types of new projects. More on the retail side, it remains the game of retail redevelopment in many of our communities. So how do we stack up against our competitors? Austin, that had the strongest employment growth rate that has never bobbled from the Great Recession, also has the most expensive office lease rates. Metro Denver, we rank kind of right there in the middle, so that's a very reasonable spot to be, from a competitive position. Notice Salt Lake, the lowest office lease rates, but also the lowest vacancy rate. How does that work? Very different type of office market that they have there, much smaller type of office market. Again, a lot of Utah, a lot of the Salt Lake advantages tend to be more on that industrial side. So when I'm looking at only the office side, it's not necessarily revealing all of the connections that we have going on there. All right, turning then, so we've seen all of this great employment growth here. How does this relate to our population base? One of the assets of our region is a very highly educated population. We also now have a very low unemployment rate. Our unemployment rate significantly below what has been posted at the U.S. level. Our expectation is that the unemployment rate in the Metro Denver region is going back to below where we had been in the Great Recession. And I think, Ryan, you had said the Arvada rate is 3%. Yikes, tight market out there. If our companies want to be able to grow and expand their operations, and they are discovering that, yes, the Metro Denver offers a very productive, highly educated labor force, but I just can't get enough of them, what do you have to have happen? You gotta have population growth. If our companies want to be able to grow and expand, if we've exhausted the labor force that we have here, because by any stretch of the imagination, a 3.8%, 3.5% unemployment rate in the Metro Denver region, we are operating well below full employment within our region. So you have to bring in some of these new people. And I know that many of you are thinking, oh, these new people, it'd be great if my friends or family would come here, but just keep those strangers out of here. It just doesn't work that way, folks. I'm sorry. Even if nobody moved in or out of our region, we would still have a growing population. This is the green bar along the bottom. That's the natural increase in our population where births are greater than deaths. It is the movement of people in less the movement of people out, or net migration, that indeed kind of gives us the wild card in terms of our population growth activity. Generally, we have, on average, we add about 50,000 new residents each year, about 21,000 of those through natural increase, the rest of them through this net migration activity into the area. Net migration is also very important to our competitors. So think about it. Not only are we out there competing for the jobs for those companies, we are out there competing for these talented individuals to bring into our area as well. Again, very important net migration activity, a very important component for everybody, with the exception of Salt Lake. They tend to have more of their population growth coming from natural increase as opposed to migration into the area. So it's not just about competing for those jobs, it's about competing for those people, those talented individuals that can do the jobs as well. Do you all know there's a presidential election coming up? Did you hear that? Yeah. So there's been a lot of discussion about income inequality and what's going on with the whole income distribution. So we took a look at that too for the Metro Denver region and for our competitors. This is a very simplistic approach, but I look at those households that have less than $25,000 in income. I mean, yes, we have cost of living differences across our competitor locations and all, but I think most all of us could agree that if you're making less than $25,000 a year, that is challenging. It's a challenging position. Versus at the top end, kind of that purplish color, would be those households that have $100,000 or more in income. One of the goals of economic development is to increase the wealth of our communities, right? We want to make that pie bigger for everybody here. What we have seen going on in Metro Denver, so first of all, in terms of our median household income, we have the highest median household income of our competitors. That goes back to our wages, because wages and salaries certainly are a large component of this household income. So anyway, the highest median household income of our competitor locations, and what we have seen going on in Metro Denver is a decrease in the percentage of our households in that green area, yes, and an increase in the percentage of households in the purpley area, yes. So our economic development efforts are indeed working. I mean, we could sit here and debate all we want about what a perfect income distribution should be, could be, what have you. But I think the fact that we are seeing smaller numbers of low-income households and greater numbers of high-income households in general is a real positive for our region. I don't mean to belittle by any means the challenges of those that are in that green segment. And obviously there's a lot of our resources and all too as a community that goes into trying to lift those people that are in that unfortunate position, trying to help them out. So certainly we continue to do that. But at least we are seeing smaller numbers that are in that type of position. So those new people coming in, they're able to take advantage of those higher salaries, higher incomes in the region, but we also have to house them, right? Home sales activity, been pretty pretty brisk, pretty stable, and pretty appropriate, I would say, for the size of our Metro Denver region. You know, we're in that whole 56,000 net new homes that are trading hands each year. The challenge is it's gotten a little pricey out there, and I don't know whether you've noticed or not. Median home price in 2015 hitting $350,000. Median home price in 2016 pushing up past 300. What did I say? 350,000 in 2015, pushing past 360,000 in 2016. And notice that differential between the U.S. median and our Metro Denver median getting greater and greater and greater. This, to me, is one of our greatest economic development challenges in the region, is the affordability of our homes. And indeed, when we take a look at our competitor locations, first thing to notice, Metro Denver's the median home prices for all of these areas are there beside the city name. So $350,000 in Metro Denver. The only competitor that comes kind of close is Portland at just over $300,000. Most of our competitors have significantly lower home prices. Notice in terms of the recovery of those home prices, again, Austin never bobbled, and indeed their home prices have continued to increase at a pretty strong clip, albeit they're starting from a much lower base, the Austin home price being nearly $100,000 less than in the Metro Denver region. Metro Denver has had one of the fastest increases in home prices across the country. Portland, however, has recently started to come on very strong too in terms of the increase in their home prices. Phoenix, where I said that they had only just recently added back all of their jobs lost, look at their home price. They have not even recovered in terms of their median home price as of yet. And kind of going into this, Phoenix was what was like the crazy story that everybody had pointed to, where their home prices went up by 50% and then collapsed by 30%. They have not had the economic growth there yet to bring their home prices back to where they were. But nonetheless, so this is a challenge for us in terms of our competitive position as far as whether or not these employees that come into the region can afford to live here. So we think, okay, if I can't buy, I'll just rent. Well, we have a very low apartment vacancy rate. Yes, we did start to see a little bit of an increase in that apartment vacancy rate in the fourth quarter, because we have indeed had a lot of new product that is finally starting to come online. But we're still operating with, this 5.3% vacancy rate, very challenging out there in the apartment rental market, and it has gotten very pricey as well. $1,300 average rental rate per month. If you're up in Boulder, the Broomfield area, on average, you're going to be paying more like $1,500 per month. And that's for all units. So that's an average for efficiencies all the way through larger. So if you're looking for a 2-bedroom apartment, be prepared to pay even more than that in general. So what are we doing about this? Well, certainly we have been building some new units, and that is starting to alleviate some of the challenge of the housing market there. The green bars there are the multifamily or the apartment construction that is going on there. Right out of the Great Recession, we had about 58% of the new units that were being constructed were in that whole multifamily type of market. We're down to about 43%, so we're starting to see a shift in the mix in terms of the new homes that are coming online. Historic average on the multifamily market, about 25%. So we're still definitely adding more than that, but I would also suggest that we are likely not to go back to that 25% mark because of changing demographics. Not only do we have the millennials that are looking for more rental opportunities, but also now the boomers that are saying, I've had enough of that single-family detached home and looking for more dense apartment living or those units that have more amenities there. So we are building new product. That is going to help. We are going to see slower increases in our home prices and in those rental rates. But nonetheless, it still is a challenging situation. And again, from a competitive location, I think one of our greatest challenges in the economic development realm right now. So last topic, all these people, all those strangers moving in, just clogging up our roads. According to the Texas Transportation Institute, that does take a look at the amount of congestion or the amount of time lost on the roads because of congestion. Notice in the Metro Denver region, I know it's kind of hard to see, but that gray bar basically is suggesting that our amount of congestion now in Metro Denver is basically equal to where it had been prior to the Great Recession. Do you believe that? I don't either. But, okay, what it does show us is how we compare, again, with those competitive locations. Again, Austin, Dallas, Atlanta that have seen some reasonable employment growth. One of our advantages over them is actually that we have less amount of congestion, and indeed, I would argue, a whole better transportation network than many of these locations. Especially, one of the things that the companies will say if they're looking at Denver versus Austin is Austin has very few direct flights out of their airport. That's a challenge for companies versus Denver International Airport providing a whole host of those one-stop opportunities or direct flights all across the globe. So that's definitely one of the challenges of that region. And we're getting better and better and better at handling our congestion and transportation issues because we have fast tracks. 2016, 5 new segments of fast tracks coming on board. But we've already opened up. Like Lauren, I'm going to take all the credit for Thank you. I opened up the bus rapid transit, the Flatiron Flyer from Boulder down into Denver Union Station. And we have the A-Line segment, Denver Union Station to Denver International Airport, coming in April. That is a game changer for our community, folks. And you all get that great connection too in the fall through the G line when that opens up. We also have the B line segment going into Westminster and the R line all along that whole I-225 corridor. This to me is exciting. It is a game changer in terms of how we can move our people all around our region. It is a game changer in terms of our competitive position out there. It is a game changer as far as how the globe views what is going on in the Metro Denver area. And also various enhancements going on out at Denver International Airport in terms of the Westin Hotel, again, that whole public transit center that will be connecting there in April, concourse expansion. Lots of exciting things that are happening here in the Metro Denver region. So with that, let me turn it out to you all. Questions, comments? Ryan is here too to answer any questions or ask him the hard questions about what's going on anywhere. He will take those hard questions. I'll take the easy ones. Thank you. Yes. And I will repeat the question, yes.
Patty, first of all, congratulations on your getting the bus line running. I noticed Portland has really taken off. What attributes can you give to that? Recently, I want to say that they raised their minimum wage, and it was thought that that was going to hurt employment. But if you look at your graphs, it looks like the community's flourished.
So the question is, we're starting to see then Portland expand. What are some of the reasons for that expansion? Specifically, does it have anything to do with the minimum wage increase? And I don't know that I can answer it specifically about the minimum wage increase. There's a lot of economic research on the positives, the negatives of minimum wages. My personal belief is I would much rather see those types of increases due to a market situation as opposed to being mandated. But I get the expense of living in different areas and trying to be able to handle that. What Portland has going on for it too, I mean, again, these days it's all about that talent attraction, that millennial attraction. It's about the high technology types of positions. Portland has been very good at attracting that millennial talent again. Migration activity, very important to them. Innovation, technology companies that they have going on there, very important. And from these days, a competitive cost structure that they have going on as well. So they're a very worthy opponent or competitor to us right now. Yes. Yes, sir.
So in your chart that showed the shift between $25,000 a year employees to the 100,000, do you feel that's movement between those income bands, or are the housing and rental prices driving those people out of the state?
Good question. So the question is, why do we have this particular movement in the income groups? Is it because of affordability issues that people are leaving, or what is going on there? So obviously there is some movement just simply from a cost of living perspective. Again, this is a very simplistic type of analysis, so I totally, I have to admit, yes, that some of it is just simply a cost of living shift. However, when we see a lot of that movement, but at the same time as we saw the improvement in Metro Denver, we actually saw more challenging positions in some of our competitors, where they had more people moving into the $25,000 band, less people in the $100,000 band. So I do believe that a lot of it is also due to our wage structure here. And it's also because in median household income, wages and salaries represent the lion's share of that income, but it's not all of it. It's also some investment income. How do they put it in terms of the housing? There are some housing value components that are included in here as well. So yes, that is also influencing us. So it's hard to isolate just that it is just wage and salary. But again, because we have seen wages going up faster than our competitor locations, my belief is that a big component of that is indeed our wage structure here that is allowing that. Because we generally have not, all throughout time, we have seen in-migration into our area. We bobbled a little bit in the mid-2000s, where we did have a little bit of out-migration, but in general, we have been an area that has had net in-migration, not that out-migration. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I used to live in Montrose, Colorado, in the Grand Junction area. A lot of coal production, Craig, Hayden, North Gunnison. How would you balance that for Colorado? Decrease in coal versus the increase in oil and gas, and maybe throw in the renewable energy. How does Colorado come out in this poll?
So the question is asking about the whole energy side. How do we balance coal, oil and gas, and the renewable energy side? And I think that the way I rephrase the question maybe is how I would answer it, that it is about a balanced energy approach here in the state of Colorado, where yes, we are seeing reductions in the coal mining activity because of Clean Air Acts and that type of thing, but we need to recognize how important that is to various economies within the state of Colorado. On the oil and gas side, I think that, we're going through a whole transition in this market. We will not be doing happy dances forever when we fill up our gas tank. But chances are that those prices are not going to go back to the highs that they had been, but that they will come back. And today's technology really allows us to take advantage of that production. On the renewable side, again, great research going on in terms of wind production and solar production and batteries. Oh my golly! At the Vectra Bank event, there was somebody that was talking about that the new energy of the future is it's not oil. We're going to not need oil before we run out of oil because of a movement towards lithium batteries. There's your investment stock tip, right? I'm not allowed to give that advice. Can I take one more? I know you. Okay, Bob.
You should have a chance to look at homeless populations in those various cities because of the cost of housing in particular. And obviously, we have a lower percentage of low income, but I mean, there are people probably falling out in the scale.
Sure.
So, and does that have an impact on the tracking company when they look at homelessness?
So the question is, have we compared homelessness issues within our various competitor locations? No, and that would, we have not done any research along those lines. I mean, I know right now, for example, the Downtown Denver Partnership is taking very close look at activity along the 16th Street Mall, making sure that, you know, we're maintaining a welcoming environment and providing assistance for the folks that are indeed living on the street in the downtown area. It remains a challenge. I mean, just again, because we're seeing a reduction in that green band there does not mean we're done with this issue by any stretch of the imagination. Very challenging issue, and I think that many of our competitor locations too, you know, there are the homeless issues that they are dealing with. Probably Salt Lake, I think, is probably going to be the area that has been perhaps a little better about handling some of the homelessness issues than other regions have. So with that, I think I've been kicked off the stage. Have a fabulous 2016. Thank you.